Good morning, everybody. Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District Representative Tom Tiffany is my very special guest today, Thursday, December 10th, 2020. Representative Tiffany has served in the Wisconsin legislature in both the Assembly and the Senate, and more recently, of course, winning the 7th CD special election race earlier this year, and then a few months later, having to win that again just last month in November. The congressman comes on for a chat once a month, typically the second Thursday of every month. He's easily and maybe by far one of my favorite people to talk to and one of my favorite guests. So please help me welcome in for our monthly chat, Congressman Tom Tiffany. Congressman, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm pretty well. Whoa. So every time we talk, you're typically like in a different location. And I don't know if you ever reveal it, but you're always somewhere else. So where are you today?
It's always a secret location. Can't let you know.
Okay, fair enough.
Out in Washington, D.C., we've been voting on some legislation this week, and we will be doing that next week also. So spending a couple weeks out here in Washington.
Well, attaboy. Getting some stuff done. Oh, and actually, that is something that I wanted to. We're going to try something new. Since we're doing this once a month, I figured we should have like a name of the show, and we should have a couple of segments that we do, like Positive Tuesday with Benefits. We're kind of getting into routine. So the first thing I want to ask you is, instead of Tom Tiffany or Congressman Tiffany or Representative Tiffany on DrydenWire Live, we should name the show. And I thought about it this morning, and I'm not a very creative person. So the only thing I came up with was Breakfast with Tiffany. The problem with that, of course, is, we're not actually having breakfast. And I'm not sure how many people will get that 1960-ish movie reference. Have you ever seen that movie? Breakfast with at Tiffany's?
In fact, I have.
Yes, that's a good one. So, I don't know. That's the best I came up with.
Anything that says Tiffany, it's got to be good, right?
That's why I call it Dryden. What?
I was concerned that you were going to name it the Damn Man Show.
The what show?
The Damn Man Show.
Oh, that from your campaign stuff. Yeah. Actually, that would be pretty cute, too.
Yeah. From my 29 years of being the dam tender on the Willow Flowage. Yes. By the way, so everything good that happens, there's always something that is, it's a little bit like, okay, it wasn't all perfect. And so having the privilege to win this special election, I lost my dam man job. Did we talk about that?
No.
I had been doing that for 29 years, and I had to give it up with the frequent trips now to Washington, D.C. That was a great disappointment because it was a lot of fun doing the damn job.
I kept forgetting to ask you when I saw a lot of your campaign material, and it would be about damn this. And I'm like, obviously there's something behind this. And I never knew what it was. And you've been on, I don't know how many times, and we've never talked about that. So now it actually all makes sense why all that stuff was, in your campaign material. It didn't make any sense to me at all. But I knew there was a story behind it. So when did you have
1991, I became the dam tender on the Willow Flowage and had that job for 29 years. And as I used to tell people, I was paid to walk the dog every morning.
Nice.
So now I lost a job.
Oh. Well, that's too bad. I mean, how much work was it or time was it? Okay, I know this isn't really what we want to talk about. We have a lot of things to actually, real stuff to talk about. But why did you do it? What did you love about it? And what are you going to miss about it?
Well, it took about an hour each morning. Just walk down to the dam, do the head level readings. And then I turned that into the company down in Wausau because there's 26 hydroelectric dams up on 25 or 26 on the Wisconsin River system. And the Willow is one of the reservoirs. It was very important. And then they let me know if they wanted gate changes done. So it just took an hour each day to do that. And then once in a while, or I should say once a week, then I would do a more thorough review of the dam, doing inspections on dikes and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was kind of an interesting job. Yeah. It was a great way to get outside. The dog loved it because we would always get to, she'd get a good walk in.
Aw.
Good for both of us.
My mom counts frogs or something. I don't know if the dean, I don't know what she does. And she's already written her obituary, which is morose in a way, but kind of cool in a way. Because she said, if I ever die, just go to the computer and just look for an obituary. Because she writes her own, which is just fantastic. In there, she's very proud, I guess, because I've never seen it. I've asked to see it already, but she won't show me. Something about counting frogs. And it's just these weird things that people do. So quickly, how was your Thanksgiving? I saw on your Twitter page, and I think I even put on my personal page, one of your photos that you basically won the internet that day. It was a brilliant photo. It was so funny. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was terrific. The girls were home, and for those people out there that don't know, I have 3 daughters, and 2 of them in college. Actually, one of them just graduated from college, and she's fully gainfully employed now. It is awesome. Chris and I are so happy.
Is that she's out of the house, or
that she graduated from college?
Oh, there you go.
And she's got a good job. Okay. So that's terrific. But no, the girls were home, and so it's great to see them. And we had a big turkey dinner. And as you saw, the before and after pictures, we were celebrating having the Thanksgiving meal on the table, and after, we were all crashed out on the couch.
Yeah, it was so funny on so many levels. Who came up with that idea for that photo?
That was Chris's idea.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. All right, so what I would like to do, kind of our flow here, after a little chit-chatty thing, I want to go through, since this is going to be monthly, anything that you have submitted to DrydenWire as a press release, a statement, or any guest columns. So you have 2 of them. One of them, I'm just reading the headlines here, and then you can kind of go through it, and that is Representative Tiffany, it's time to change quarantine protocols for schools. That was, I think, 3rd week in November. You had sent that out, so it's been a little while, but I know there was a lot of engagement on our Facebook page about it. What is that story about, and where are you standing on this, and what is your view?
Yeah, what I was doing is calling for legislative leaders and Governor Evers to change the quarantine policy for schools, and specifically for schools. And I'll just give people a quick example, because there's a lot of people across the state that don't realize what these quarantine policies are doing. So, for example, in my kids' school over in Minocqua, the Lakeland Union High School, they've had 60 positive cases in their school, staff and students. And they are sent home for quarantine, and it ends up being like 10 to 14 days. And that's appropriate. You're sick. I mean, we should all be doing, whether it's school or anything else, if we should be following our mother's advice. Stay home when you're sick and wash your hands frequently. So those people should go home. But then we have the contact tracing requirements that are in place as a result of the federal and state government. And if you're within 6 feet for 15 minutes, you have to be quarantined for 14 days, even if you're not sick. And so what you have, for example, in my kids' school, with 60 positive cases, they've had over 350 kids who have been sent home who are not sick. They're quarantined because they were close contacts. And so people will see the term like exposure in newspaper articles or in media that's out there. Just because you're exposed does not mean you're sick. And so there's 350 kids in my daughter's school that have been sent home. Not one of them has reported back to the school nurse that they got sick in that 14 days. That's what's happening, is we're sending kids home from school and they're not sick. And so I suggested to our school district, let's take a different approach. And I worked with a variety of people, local pediatrician, the school nurse, who has just been terrific, with the school board. And they changed their quarantine policy about a week ago, where they said, we are going to let kids who are asymptomatic, who do not have signs of being ill, we're going to allow them to be able to stay in school. We're going to put additional mitigation requirements in place. You got to go see the school nurse before you come into school. If you exhibit signs of illness, you have to go home. You have to be tested. So there's additional mitigation requirements put in place, but we're going to allow those kids to be able to stay in school, because this is a disaster that's happening in Wisconsin and across this country where kids are not in school. I'm just really happy that our kids' school and a lot of schools here in northern Wisconsin, in my congressional district, they're having their kids, our kids, be in school. But you see states where there are widespread closures, where it's all virtual, and these kids are really suffering. Their education is suffering. Their socialization is suffering. Mental health is suffering. We're seeing upticks in drug and alcohol abuse. Suicides are up across the country. There's a lot of bad things as a result of these lockdowns, especially with schools. And if you read the stuff that Dr. Redfield has put out from the head of the Centers for Disease Control, he has said kids should be in school. And kids are the least likely to spread the coronavirus. There was the whole talk back in March that kids were super spreaders, stuff like that. It turned out to be the exact opposite. Kids are not the super spreaders. In fact, they're the least likely to spread the virus. Let's make sure kids are in school. And we're seeing a couple examples around the country, including in Newton County, Missouri, where they changed their quarantine policy, where it shows that kids are actually safer being in school. And so that's the point that I was making. Look at the data that's out there. Look at the real world research that is out there. I didn't just say this willy-nilly. I've been studying this. And there's examples like Newton County, my kid's school. It's actually safer for kids to be in school. Even we should stop quarantining kids who are not sick.
Yeah. I had a chance to meet with just for a regular coffee and a chat with a Shell Lake superintendent, David Bridenhagen, like a week ago, just kind of unplugged for a little bit and just had some coffee with him. And actually, while we were talking, we decided he should come on the show. So he'll be on, I think, Christmas week with Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. He'll be on to talk about not specifically Shell Lake School District, but kind of all the school districts in the, in Northwest Wisconsin, these rural districts. What has gone well over the first semester? What does beginning of 2021 look like at the schools? And he brought up something I thought was so fascinating, and this is actually what made me go, yeah, you should come on the show and talk about this. And he hasn't yet, so I can't wait to ask him. But what does it look like? I'm sorry, he's one that brought up, what does it look like when everyone is back in school? Because we're going to have, everyone is going to be almost like at a different learning, because they're learning level or a knowledge level. Doesn't matter what age or whether third grade or whether it's 10th grade, there's a significant amount of people who have chosen to homeschool. Not remote learning, but homeschooling. And then, of course, the remote learning, which obviously has gotten a lot, I wouldn't say better, not like it was bad before, but obviously we worked out a lot of kinks for a lot of school districts. But he said, I'm really fascinated, and we're already starting to have those conversations of, let's just assume for a moment, hypothetically, all schools everywhere go back full-time fall of next year. What does that look like? What does it look like coming up for testing in this coming up year, right? All those, I don't know what they call that stuff. I don't remember the name of it. When they do the all the tests and the No Child Left Behind and all these things, where's everyone going to fall and what impact is that going to have? Have you talked to superintendents or schools about that situation, about the testing coming up? And then what does this look like when everyone's back, but it's not like a regular school year where everyone's back after a few months off for the summer? We got to figure out where everybody is.
Yeah. So I haven't talked to administrators specifically about testing. I've talked to them about a number of issues. And I've talked to a number of administrators across this region. And I will say this, I do support doing the testing. There's some people that are saying we should not do testing this year because it's so uneven and we just won't get a good snapshot. I believe the opposite is true. We should do the testing to see what kids have fallen behind, if it's all of them, some of them, whatever. We need to know that baseline of what has happened. But I just know one thing, and you don't need a test to do it. There's a lot of kids that have fallen behind. This is not working with virtual education. There are insufficient broadband capabilities in many parts of the country, including up by us. You also have special needs kids that need that personal contact, and they're not getting that at this point. We have so many kids that are falling behind across the country here in Wisconsin. The sooner we get kids back in school, the better. And we're seeing the proof. And I'm urging the county health officers to take a different look at this, because that's who the school boards ultimately look back to. Like, I think your administrator will probably acknowledge that. A county health officer, they want the sign off from them. And a lot of them refuse to do that, even though schools are putting extraordinary mitigation requirements in place. I'll give you a quick example. My kid's school over in Minocqua, they have a mask requirement in the classroom, and they have plexiglass around all desks. Yet, due to guidance from the federal and state government, they're still saying you got to quarantine if you're a close contact. Why did they put these mitigation requirements in place if they're not going to value them? That's the stuff that's going on in our schools. It is time to get kids back in the classroom. If somebody's sick, they're tested positive for coronavirus, they should quarantine. But if they're not, they should be allowed in school. The safest place for kids is in school if they're not sick.
Yeah, and just to, at least from my end, holy cow, I've been a part of my kids being a part of the virtual learning, and the teachers are doing, I can't speak for all teachers, just the teachers that my kids are in, so I can hear what they're saying. They're doing a phenomenal job. I don't put any of this onus on the teachers. They're doing an exceptional job given this really bizarre time. But I can tell you that if I were a kid again, I wouldn't do very well with remote learning. I just wouldn't. I need movement. I need stimulation. That's my ADHD. I have to move. Even right now, I'm moving my hands because that's how my brain works. Whether I'm listening or I'm talking, I need movement. And it's tough to do when I'm just sitting here staring at a screen. I just need to be able to move a little bit. So like one of our kids does a little bit better and the other one does phenomenally well with the remote learning. But yeah, there are so many circumstances and so many situations where, yeah, there are. Ironically, one of the tests or one of the bills, whatever that was called, was, No Child Left Behind. I don't know. I kind of feel like some of them are right now during all this, but to the credit to all the schools, they are doing a phenomenal job trying to work through this whole thing. I want to get to your second thing that you had said, which I think
I just want to finish this up, Ben.
Sure.
Most teachers I talk to up here, they want to be in school. Yeah. They're doing the very best they can under oftentimes difficult circumstances.
I agree.
Because some of them aren't really good with the technology either.
Well,
just like I struggle now and then. But the other thing is, people that value public education, they should be deeply concerned about this. Public education enrollment this year, I think, is down 4%. Biggest drop that we've seen in years here in Wisconsin. And it's parents saying, this is unacceptable that my kid is not getting proper schooling, and they're pulling them out of the public schools. If people value public schools, and those that value public schools, and that's part of the reason I sent the letter to Tony Evers, former teacher and head of the Department of Public Instruction, you better get kids back in school and do everything that you can to get them back in school. Otherwise, parents are going to find alternatives. That's just the way we are. To not get a good education is unacceptable to me and my wife and thousands of parents across the state of Wisconsin.
We have a question, so I want to get to the second thing that you had sent, which was, again, this is the headline. Tiffany calls on Evers legislative leaders to work together to craft realistic, workable, and data-based COVID-19 guidelines. But before that, we have a question here. I put up on the screen. Hopefully you can see it from Sherry. It says, please support VOCA, which I'm not kidding. I don't even know what that is. So please tell me what that is. Fund changes to support domestic abuse prevention funding and comment on it. Do you know what this is about? And if you do, where do you stand on whatever this is?
Yeah, I am not familiar with that acronym VOCA, but I'm certainly familiar with domestic abuse funding, because when I was in the state legislature, we voted to increase that funding. And I wonder if this may be a federal program, VOCA. And I'll take a look at it, Sherry, and thanks for sharing those thoughts.
Sure. All right, so let's get, it was about 4 days later you had sent the Tiffany calls on Evers legislative leaders to work together to craft realistic, workable, and data-based COVID-19 guidelines. What was that about, and where are we on that?
Repeat that question, please.
Sure. Ben. It was an article that you sent. I can't remember if it was a press release, a statement, or a guest column. I don't recall. But the headline was Tiffany calls on Evers legislative leaders to work together to craft realistic, workable, and data-based COVID-19 guidelines.
Yeah, and that was specifically in regards to what we just talked, the quarantine protocol for schools. That's what that was all about.
Sure. Yep. I just want to make sure I touched on that. So now here is a different, so this is another segment we're going to do here, where I'm going to, kind of like what we just did now, I just kind of Googled some things this morning and some things I've been following that I think is right up your alley. It's House stuff, it's DC stuff, where I'm going to give you the headline, and you're going to tell us why should we care? I don't know. Are there some things like, yeah, don't worry about that one, or yeah, you should care, and here's why. So here's the first one. This was from Reuters. I think this was yesterday. The headline was, U.S. House approves stopgap funding bill as haggling continues over coronavirus aid. So there's a stopgap bill and obviously coronavirus aid. Are you guys haggling over that?
So that's specifically referring to the continuing resolution. People will be familiar with that, where we have these continuing resolutions to continue to fund the federal government. And that was a 1-week extension to allow negotiations to continue between the House and the Senate. I voted for that bill to fund it at existing levels here as we go forward another week, and hopefully we'll get to a resolution. This is something I'm very concerned about, though. I really do not like government that's being funded by continuing resolution. We should go back to the regular budget process, just like we do that we did in the state of Wisconsin when I sat on the finance committee. The budgeting process is broken out here in Washington, D.C., and it needs to be fixed where we stop doing just these continuing resolutions. But government's got to be funded. For this one, I voted for it. I don't promise that I'm always going to vote for these continuing resolutions, though. We need to get back to regular budgeting process.
And where are we on the coronavirus aid?
Yeah, the COVID aid. So that is also being negotiated. One thing that was really disappointing in the last week is what Speaker Pelosi said about that. She said, I will consider a less expensive package now than she would a couple months ago because there's a new president. I got to tell you, for most voters, Republican or Democrat, this is why people are so cynical about politics. She would not consider what we have been proposing as Republicans, a less expensive package that was more fiscally responsible, but would get targeted aid to people like, especially the hospitality industry, others like that have been really hit hard as a result of the shutdowns and lockdowns. And so now she says, well, there's a new president, I will consider something less expensive. It's just horrible. That type of cynical legislating out here on the part of Speaker Nancy Pelosi should not be happening. And I can't believe that Democrats will continue to have her as Speaker. So what will happen now, hopefully we'll get a good bill. In fact, today, we're going to do a public announcement as Republicans in the House calling for a slimmed down package that's fiscally responsible that will offer help. This a very similar package to what we've been talking about for a couple months to be able to really help people. And I hope they will finally take it up, the majority Democrats in the House.
Do you think something will get done before the end of the calendar year?
I hope so. But with Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, I cannot say that in an optimistic manner. I mean, I really, I don't apologize, but I recognize what I'm saying comes across as partisan. But what I've seen here in 6 months with this real cynicism of Nancy Pelosi's leadership is really awful to see. And for her to acknowledge last week that, yes, she would not consider a less expensive package because President Trump was president and now there's a new president, is not representing the American people the way they expect us to. Wow. I hope we can come to a compromise agreement that helps out Americans.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share that view and opinion. So here's the next one. This one's from CBS. The headline is House passes defense legislation with veto-proof margin as Trump threatens veto.
Yeah, so that's the National Defense Act that gets passed. It gets passed every year, and that one passed. I voted against that bill, and there was some good stuff in there, increased pay for troops and stuff like that. But there were a few things that were not good in there. It prevented the president from fully withdrawing our troops from foreign conflicts. And I believe that's wrong. President Trump has done a really good job of extricating us from the Middle East. I mean, if you've seen, and I think we've talked about this, Israel has been signing peace agreements with former enemies, 3 of them here in the last few months. Peace is breaking out in the Middle East. President Trump has been steadily disengaging us from the Middle East and in Afghanistan. where we've been for nearly 20 years, getting our troops out of harm's way and stopping getting us out of the never-ending wars that are in the Middle East. I think that's a really good thing. I don't like that provision in the bill, and it's part of the reason that I opposed it. There were a couple other items in there also that I didn't like, and that's the reason that I opposed that bill. Now, it'll be interesting to see what the president does. He said he may veto it. We'll see what he does.
Sure. Here's one on always a topic that gets people talking is, of course, marijuana. This is from, and I don't know how legit this site is. It's called Marijuana Moment. I don't know if it's .org, .net, .com, something like that. I've seen this in other places. It's just the first one I could find this morning. And the headline was, House approves federal marijuana legislation bill in historic vote. What is that about, and why should we care, or should we care?
Yeah, there was a vote for pot legalization. That was last week.
Yep.
So what we were voting on last week, rather than a coronavirus relief package, Speaker Pelosi put a pot legalization bill before us. Yesterday, we voted for energy efficiency requirements for ceiling fans. Don't you love that really important stuff that we're dealing with out here in Congress, rather than dealing with the really important issues?
Picking up your sarcasm.
Yeah, exactly. There was a pot legalization bill that was before us, marijuana legalization bill. I voted against that. And because what we should do first is we need to take marijuana off from the Schedule I narcotics at the federal level and allow research on it. I believe one of the greatest things that we could do is allow research to be done by our elite research facilities across the country to see the impact of pot, so that then states can decide. I don't think the federal government should decide. I think each state should have the ability to decide how they're going to handle marijuana legalization.
Sure. Was that a legalization of marijuana, like a personal use type thing or a certain level, or was this a decriminalization bill?
That was a legalization bill.
Okay. Yeah, I should probably read these. But see, that's the whole idea. I just give you the headline, and then you can kind of tell me. So, all right, so here's the last one that I have for you. And this one is from
Ben?
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, we got to wrap up in 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Oh, I'm going to go fast then.
I got to go vote.
Well, that a boy. The Hill, Hoyer releases 2021 House calendar. And I just want to read you part of this from The Hill. This was a quote from somebody. Actually, it was Mark Bednar, a spokesman for the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. He said, why don't they want to go to work for the American people? Look at the number of session voting days in the Democrats' majority versus recent Republican-led congressional calendars. So your calendar is set for next year. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What are your thoughts? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So the calendar was released for next year, and we're only in half the time. And that's a choice that the majority makes. And so we live with that because they are in the majority. And I would just say that I'm going to be here working, and whether I'm in DC or whether I'm at home, I'm going to be working all year for the people of northern and western Wisconsin. So I'm going to make sure that I take care of business, whether Speaker Pelosi has us in Washington, D.C. or not. And actually, some of the most important work we do is at home, and I certainly plan on doing that in 2021.
Congressman, thanks very much. Go vote. Thank you. We'll see you in a month from now.
Yeah. It was really good to be here. And Ben, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope you have a great holiday season. I know we're going to get together and have a really good time for Christmas. I hope the girls don't forget me with a few presents. I hope your family doesn't forget you. To you and your family, and to all the people that are listening in here, I really wish people a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And it's my birthday and Christmas, so don't forget me either.
Really?
Yeah. Me and Jesus. That's the other one. Yep. Same.
The important guy. The important guy. Hey, mine follows by 5 days. Mine follows by 5 days, December 30th.
Okay, well, we'll have to have a conversation about that.
Hey, by the way, I got to throw one more thing in. I know I said I got to wrap up here, but it's my daughter Catherine's birthday, and I want to say happy birthday, Catherine. It's her 17th birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Catherine. She's probably not watching, but that's all right. It's what dads do for their daughters.
She better be in school studying.
Right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll chat with you soon. Thank you to Congressman Tom Tiffany for joining us today. And thank all of you for watching. We'll see you right back here on Tuesday for another episode of Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. Until then, as always, stay safe, keep your social distance, and have a blessed day. Tom, we'll see you, sir.
Have a great day, Ben.